Hi, y'all. Welcome to your second episode of Sunday School. Today is one of the biggest topics that I face when I talk with people, and that is emotional eating. Okay. They're like, how can I stop? Why does this keep happening? That's my biggest problem when they identify themselves and their problems. So let's talk about it for just a second. Okay. So I'm going to define emotional eating as eating that is simply eating that has been triggered by a feeling instead of hunger. Okay, that's all it is. Don't put any judgment to it. It is a part of life. It is a part of eating. We all have Thanksgiving. We all have these things. It's part of being human, eating with feeling, right? The trouble comes when we start to attach the guilt to that emotional eating, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So ironically, or not so ironically, we are all at a higher risk of emotional eating if we're under any of the big life stressors, right? If we're hungry, if we're tired, if we have a lack of work-life balance, if we have high levels of stress, if we experience specific triggers, if, for example, there were a global pandemic, okay? These are things that can all make it harder because we're having big feelings. Okay. Now, like I said, if it's your choice to cope with something with food, go for it. I will give you a pre-COVID example of my own. If I had a rough week at work, right, I would call the girls and we would rally on Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings and we would go to brunch, right? And we would have mimosas and lovely breakfast and talk to each other. And that was a way that I chose consciously to emotionally eat in order to heal myself, right? But I made that conscious choice. If you're not making that choice, I know it feels very unempowering, right? It feels very scary. So we want to have some ways to deal with it and work around it. So here's the doozy, okay? And if you do not know already, I'm obsessed with this book. It's called The Fuck It Diet by Caroline Dooner. I highly recommend it. If you want help reading it, I've got a book club and stuff in my group that you can check out. Because there's a lot of stuff to unpack and work through here. But one of the things that she says very first about emotional eating, and I'm going to read it word for word, it's not my words. Emotional eating will naturally become a non-issue once you start getting in the habit of feeling instead of avoiding feeling. The first time I read that, I kind of cried. Okay, I really cried. Because it was a big eye-opener to me that this is all in my hands. Like I'm stopping the feeling. So that's why I'm eating emotionally. So to be honest, this is the problem for most of us, right? Big emotions are scary. I know that I always worry if I allow myself to actually feel sad, I will feel sad forever. If I allow myself to feel angry, I will feel angry forever, right? So here's the big news flash. In order to heal from anything, you have to feel. And I know that that's hard. And I know it's difficult. It's still hard for me. But you have to have those big emotions and actually deal with them instead of pushing them down and not dealing with them at all. One of my ridiculous theories, it's very unscientific, but it's how I've always looked at this when it came to food and dieting. And I'm pretty sure it applies to other things. We all have a hole in our hearts, right? Not a literal hole, obviously, metaphorical. I'm a reading teacher. And that hole is from the trauma, the hurts, the things that you've experienced in your life that you have not yet healed from. And I've spent years in therapy and I still have things that are holes, right? That I have to work on filling. Now, it's a void, right? So we all know that a void is always filled by the substance that's around it. So if that hole is not filled with the things that we need it to be filled with that are good and healthy and pure, we end up filling it with other things, right? Like food, like dieting, like sex, like drugs, like booze, like politics and arguing, right? Whatever that thing is, people use that to plug that hole so they don't have to feel their emotions. Right? And as I've learned, dieting is the way that I have plugged that hole. Okay. Dieting, it actually controls that, right? So let me read what Caroline has to say, because again, she says it very well, much better than I could ever say myself. So, dieting is one of the big ways we try to avoid feeling our bodies. It is a perfect storm of distraction, control, perfectionism, and the chemical high we get from adrenaline and other stress hormones when we restrict our food. Dieting is a way to disconnect from our bodies and stifle our life force. Less food and higher stress hormones help us temporarily live with less feeling. Not to mention all of the concentration and focus it takes to override your appetite and famine response. Dieting is a distraction. Another big yikes, right? But as soon as you notice it, you can deal with it, okay? Once we know better, we do better. Thank you, Dr. Maya Angelou. So if you are dieting, bottom line, you will not be able to stop eating emotionally. I'm really sorry. It's not going to happen. It's simply not possible. You are denying your body food and not truly feeling all of your emotions, and it will just keep happening. So the first step, obviously, is to stop dieting. If you need help doing that, I can do that. There are plenty of people that help you with that. But that is the first step to stopping emotionally eating. And I know it seems counterintuitive. I know it does. But trust me. Okay, you gotta stop dieting. After that, what do you do next? Oh my gosh, I stopped dieting. I have, given up the thing that I have known for most of my life. You have to feel the big feelings. Okay. And so how do we start this work? Caroline suggests a strategy that I love, that is very easy. You don't need anything to actually do it. You just need your couch and 5 minutes of time, which, to be honest, I'm swamped. All of us are swamped. We have a very, I won't say crazy, but it's a hard life right now with Corona, right? There's people all the time everywhere. But even I, with 4 children who are homeschooling, can find this 5 minutes a day. Okay. And I do believe it's important. And this is a different 5 minutes than meditating. Okay. So if you're meditating, great. Keep that up. I love to meditate as well. But meditating is much different than the breathe and feel. So with the breathe and feel, you simply find a quiet space, or if you're like me, put in headphones and set your timer for 5 minutes. You do want to end this so that it won't go on forever, because, one of my biggest fears was I would feel sad forever. Nope. Set that timer so it's time to come out. So you just lay down and you breathe. And I am not kidding. That is it. What happens is when you're sitting there and relaxing and breathing, emotions may arise, right? And you just need to notice what's happening and feel it and think about it and do what you need to do to fill up your hole, right? And what this starts to do over time, right, is instead of filling that hole or that void with food or sex or drugs or whatever, you fill it with love and light and healing. Okay? So in order to end emotional eating, you just got to do 3 things, right? Eat, feel, heal. That's it. Don't stress out about trying to stop emotional eating, y'all. That'll just turn into another diet. Okay? Don't stress out about any of it. If you need help, I'm here. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon.